The previous 4 controls have all been about locking things down and the processes you follow to stay secure. This last control is about the software you run to protect your devices from malicious attacks. Section 8, Malware Protection. We're on to the final section now. Before we get started, a question I'm often asked is what's the difference between malware protection and virus protection? Well, a virus is a type of malware. Malware is the collective term for lots of other attacks. Generally these days, if someone says antivirus, they mean anti-malware, but it's still worth checking. There are lots of different types of malware protection out there. Some paid for, some free. You need to look at what's best for you and your organisation. I come across a lot of it in my line of work. Many claim to be the best. Truth is, they each have their own strengths and weaknesses. In terms of cyber essentials, you need to make sure the anti-malware software updates its protection database at least daily. It must scan files on access, and it must scan web pages as you access them. Finally, it must prevent connections to malicious websites. You should check that any software ticks all these 4 requirements before you choose it. The questions in this section work slightly differently to above. Question 1 has several answers you can select. Select all that are appropriate and provide a short explanation in the notes box. The remaining 5 questions will then only apply if you selected that option in question 1. Question 1, are all your devices protected from malware? You have 3 options to choose from. You can choose more than one option if appropriate. What you'll probably find is one option applies to your computers and another probably applies to your mobile devices. Option A, do you use anti-malware software to protect your devices? This may be something like Windows Defender, or it may be a commercial anti-malware solution like Kaspersky, AVG, something like that. There are loads out there. Option B, do you restrict what applications can be installed to an approved list, either by policy or by some technical control like the App Store? Option C, do you use application sandboxing? If you're not sure what this means, chances are you're probably not using it. Basically, you restrict specific applications to only run within a sandbox. Specific machines or virtual machines, which is isolated, protected from the rest of your network. Like I said, if this one confuses you, you're probably not using it. I don't see many self-assessments with this option selected. Please note that all of your servers, laptops, desktops and mobile devices must be protected with one of the options above. What I usually find is most organisations use option A for their computers and option B for their mobile devices. Question 2, what anti-malware software are you using and how is it configured? So obviously this question only applies if you selected option A above. We need to know what anti-malware software you are using and that you have verified it's updating at least daily and it scans files on access. Updating daily is crucial. Most compromises that happen have already been discovered and protected against. It's just that someone didn't update. It's also really important that your protection software scans files as they're accessed. It's no good only scanning once a day. You'll likely have already accessed the file then, and it's too late. Please confirm in the notes box that you've verified this is the case for your software. Question 3, do you also scan web pages as you access them? Again, this question only applies if you've chosen option A. You should make sure you are also scanning the web pages you visit. Normally your anti-malware software can do this. Sometimes you might need an additional bit of software. If you're using Windows 10 and Microsoft Edge, you can use Smart Screen for this. Your software should scan pages you access and warn you about malicious websites. Question 4, do you restrict unsigned applications? This question only applies if you've selected option B. Do you restrict people from installing unsigned applications? Generally, unless you've done something to your mobile phone, this will already be restricted. For example, on the iPhone, you can only install applications from the Apple Store. You just need to make sure people have not jailbroken their devices, which I find is very rare these days. Question 5, do you only install approved applications? Again, this only applies if you've selected option B. Do you have a documented list of approved applications? And do you only allow people to install these approved applications? From a security perspective, it's important to know what applications are in use on the devices accessing your organisation's information. And this is not just about your company devices. If your staff use their personal devices to access your information, like their email, they're included here too. You should have an approved software list and make sure that only items on that list are installed. Some people use mobile device management software for this. Some people just have good documentation, policies and processes with a strong training program. And some people would argue that this is better. Please explain how you ensure only approved applications are installed on devices that rely on option B to protect them from malware. Question 6. How do you protect the rest of your IT systems from your sandboxes? So obviously this question only applies if you've selected option C above. If you're using application sandboxing, do you ensure that applications within the sandbox are not able to access your data, your local network, and any other sensitive systems or devices? If you're using sandboxing, you need to confirm you've set it up in a secure way and explain how you ensure it cannot access other parts of your IT systems. This usually comes down to the way in which you've configured the virtual machines or the devices that you're using for your sandboxing. We're almost there now. That's all the questions taken care of. Let's run through what most of my clients tend to do to comply with this final section. First of all, we make sure we've got a good anti-malware solution in place. Ideally one that is centrally managed, so you don't need to check each individual machine. We take a good look at the settings, take a note of how often it's updating, and we make sure that options are set to scan files on access. Whilst in here, there are also usually some settings for web page scanning too. Sometimes if it's a managed IT provider, you'll want to ask them to confirm it's set up correctly and ask for a screenshot of the settings for your own evidence. Then the key piece, we make sure there is a good reporting mechanism to produce a regular management report to show all the devices are protected and that they are up to date. So many people overlook this bit. Most people know to put some malware protection in place, but very few regularly check that it's actually working. For option B, we tend to find good documentation and an approved software list, coupled with some strong staff training is the best approach. Helping your staff understand why this stuff is important, there is no substitute for good staff training. My experience is if you rely on technical controls, staff try and fight it, whereas if you educate them on why it's important, then they then start to work with you. And there we have it. We've reached the end of Cyber Essentials. If you've followed all the episodes, you should now be equipped with everything you need to ensure you are compliant. You'll also now know if it's something you're happy to take on yourself or if you want to call in an external consultant to help. You'll also be well equipped to know if that consultant is giving you the right advice. In the final episode, I'm going to do a final wrap up for you and cover off some of the common questions. I'll see you then. Take care.